The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
This is Haymaker Combat Sports. Hear it here, coming straight from the source. Only with the real, they ain't here to dress it up. Sweet science, MMA, you can get it all from us. Trust, 5 stars cause it's live. And through the fight game, we can guide ya. Slick talking, putting them in caution. Passing all the goals cause the audio is awesome. What you waiting for? Spread the word, tell a friend. This the podcast where all of the discussion ends. When they start going strike for strike, this the show that'll tell you what you seen in the fight. And they ain't playing on the mic, this a welcome to the show. Warm it up for the squad, Haymaker of the bros. I'm a bow wow, you can hear from the pros. It's Haymaker Combat Sports, time to roll.
Welcome to Haymaker Combat Sports, powered by Belly Up Sports Media Network. I'm your host, EJ Reed, joined by my fellow hosts, Aaron Admire, Steve Johnson. How's it hanging, fellas?
No, happy Tuesday. It's storming here, man. It's been storming for like an hour, just downpour. It's dark. Just watching the rain.
I hadn't even checked outside. How's it looking out there, Steve?
Not too bad. It's been actually, the sun's out. It's been pretty clear over here. But who knows, that probably might travel over here later on.
Yeah, everything that hits me hits you guys in a couple hours. Storm's on the way.
Bro, I'm hoping it stays on the west side of the state because I don't want any of that coming over here. But you never know. It's unpredictable, like always. But y'all boys get into anything good this past weekend?
Just hanging out, enjoying the weather. It was hot as hell. You know, the pool's coming in handy, doing a lot of swimming, a lot of cooking out, you know. Hamburger and hot dog diet.
That's what's up. It's summertime, so that's very appropriate for this time of year. How about you, Steve?
Nah, nothing too much. Just a relaxed weekend. Probably to talk about a little bit, but you know, after a weekend of fights, barely caught that because of the awkward hour. But other than that,
yeah, definitely a lot of MMA news to get into. But I was in Las Vegas this past weekend for CRC, Cavino and Rich Convention, a show that me and Admire listened to. A lot of people were asking about you, Admire.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, man. We missed you out there. Maybe next year you can make it out there.
Yeah, next year I'll plan ahead and I'll make it out there. There's a lot of people I'd like to meet in person. It's crazy, you know. I think I've been listening since 2016 or 17. So there's a lot of good friends I've made just through listening to a radio show. And it's like this hard to explain to people that, like you, I met through a radio show. Rucker, I met through a radio show. Andre, that has like basically been my roommate before, met through a radio show, like all these people. So yeah, I want to get out there and meet a lot more of the people that I know online but never met in person.
Yeah, man, it was like a little surreal going out there and, like you say, seeing people's profiles or people's names you see, and then finally meeting them in person. It's like almost like a mind fuck. Sort of.
Was there anybody that like who was the most surprising person you met in person?
Man, I don't even know because there was so many people. Like a lot of people came up to like me and Rucker and like they had to introduce us. So they like called us out by name and like you just had to play it off until they like said their name. Like, oh shit, that's you. So it happened a lot. Daniel Javier Fitz, that was cool meeting up with him, chopping it up. He's a big MMA fan, so should be collaborating with him soon. So stay posted for that. Rocket Dog, like these names you always hear frequently. Shit.
Was Bowser out there?
Oh, of course, yeah. That's a big one too. Seeing his ass, he was like, you know, you saw people like here and there, like at different events, but for some reason it was always Mauser popping up and like always coming with the one-liners and whatnot. So he was definitely the belle of the ball, so to speak. And Cavino's parents were out there, and that's one thing. I didn't get a chance to meet his parents because they were all every time like I maybe had a chance, they were always doing something else. So I wish I got to talk to Tudmaster, his brother Tommy, and he's a character, man. He was cool.
The Tudmaster Tommy.
Hell yeah. But yeah, man, overall it was a good event. Got there Friday. They had the pool party out there and where they were broadcasting from. So that's when I initially met everybody. Me and Rucker walked on there. Rucker had his girlfriend Tabitha out there. Robin White, he was cool people. And his, I think, wife they're married is Tabitha as well. So we all went up there to stadium swim out there at Circa, and it was a good time. You know, Rucker isn't drinking right now. He's doing that 75-day challenge or whatnot. So I was throwing them back though. Yeah, and that's mixed with the sun, man. Like that first night, I was out of it, man. I took a nap, and like, you know, you wake out of naps and kind of panic. I was like, oh shit, I missed everything, but it was still pretty. It was still pretty early when I woke up, and then I headed over to. They had an event at this place called Legacy. It was at Circa, so they told us just to, you know, not be too fancy and just wear like, you know, casual clothes. Don't be a bum, but, you know, wear normal clothes. And I went up there and motherfuckers were dressed in suits. I'm like, I knew I should have dressed up a little bit more for this. It was like one of those like classy skyline type of bar situations, you know?
Yeah.
With the view and whatnot. And I didn't leave because I felt underdressed. I just was just out of it, man. And like I left a little bit early from that, but that was cool. And then the next day they had like an event at Top Golf. Oh no, Atomic Golf is like basically like Top Golf, and they did another show from there. But I missed that. Like I was in bed because I was like out of it because I drank it a good bit the day before, and so I looked at it on YouTube a little bit. But I went to they had this what's hotel is it? It wasn't at Circuit. No, it wasn't at the D. It was a hotel across the street where they had a food court, and they had this chicken tender place. So I went there for lunch, pigged out, and then fell back asleep for another few hours. And yeah, I got back up, and they had like a dinner that night at I think it's called Sweets at Circa. It's like a sports booking place, and they had like a little setup, like a little buffet set up at the top where, you know, we all went around and got our food and, you know, was mingling and mixing and mingling, so to speak. And then we had karaoke later that night, and my drunk ass got up on stage and did a Nirvana song. I was like the first to jump up on there, and
oh hell yeah.
Lo and behold, I put my phone down for like, it felt like maybe a minute or two, and I lost my phone, man. So I was kind of bummed out about that. And I did it because I have a business phone as well. So I was trying to do everything I could because I just got this. I got the Galaxy 24 early this year. And so this is a new phone. And I tried to do like the find my phone thing, but it was just too damn loud in there. And so I was just like, shit out of luck. There's nothing I can do. Then after they closed, I ended up calling the phone after they closed, so I couldn't go back, and the manager found it, but they didn't open until 5 p.m. the next day, so I couldn't go get it. My flight left at 2 p.m. So friend through the CNR show, Michael Mullally, he went back and got it, and he shipped it to me today, so I should be getting it back soon. But still, that kind of sucked.
Dang.
Yeah, and then I flew in American, and I flew back Spirit. I fucking hate Spirit. We all know the stories about Spirit. And I checked a bag because they make you pay for it, whether you do a carry-on or you check it in. So I checked the bag back because I still had a big bottle of Makers that I hadn't drunk, and I had a few bottles of Beer. So in order not to waste it, I had to check the bag in. And then when I landed and got my bag, I noticed that 2 big, expensive 3-ounce bottles of cologne were missing from my bag. So those motherfuckers went through and fucking stole my shit.
Fucking Spirit, man. Trash.
Yeah. And through TSA, I lost a pair of my earbuds. So lost a lot of shit during this event. But all in all, it was good shit. Finally met Cavino, Rich, and Spot in person, and they were as advertised. Rich is just as jittery as he is on the radio in person, and met all the significant others, but drank too much. But hopefully they have it again next year, and hopefully you can come, Admire.
Yep, for sure. I'll go to the next one.
But that being said, let's talk about some news stories like we do on these preview shows, Inside Out, Outside the Cage. And, we couldn't go on with the show without starting off with this one. Jon Jones announced his UFC retirement on social media. He said, "Today I'm officially announcing my retirement from UFC. The decision comes after a lot of reflection, and I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude for the journey I've experienced over the years." First thoughts of when you saw this online, Admire?
First thoughts, I was just like, man, he could have done this shit a long time ago. Like, I want the backstory now. I want to know why it took so long. Why didn't he retire before? Was it UFC wouldn't pay him enough to fight Tom? What's the backstory? Like, why, dude? And everybody's got their own theories on it. Is he ducking Tom? Does he really did he want to fuck with Tom and like damage Tom's legacy? I don't know, man. Like, there's so many ways you could think about this. Jon's a fighter. He's never really backed away from anybody except for Chael Sonnen, So I don't really see Jon ducking him, but Jon wants to keep that legacy intact as well. So I don't know, man. There's just so many ways you could think about it. But my first reaction is like, I kind of expected it, just as long as he's taken off, But did he announce it because of the other things going on? Did you see the thing that happened right along with it?
Yeah, didn't he get another legal trouble with, was it hit and run or something?
Another hit and run. And, some people said that something about possibly intoxicated.
But I see, because I was busy this past weekend, so I didn't get to deep dive into it. But it looks like somebody in the legal world was defending him and saying he possibly might have been set up because it allegedly happened back in February. And why is it just now getting out if it's something as serious as that?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen all the evidence, but it was just really weird that this, it all happened within the same timeline. So I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait for more on that to come out. But, the fact remains, why did it take so long for him to just come out and retire? When's the last time Jon fought? Against Stipe, how many months ago?
November. So it's 9 months ago or so. Not 8-9 months.
Yeah. And he wasn't injured to my knowledge. He should have been fighting or had something set up. I don't know, man. I would have liked to see him at least have one more fight where he announced and said, hey, this is going to be my last fight. Go out and, do the retirement promo package. Everybody knows this is going to be his last fight. Hey, MSG, this is my retirement fight. Set it up and do it proper, not just come out of left field and retire via social media. I would have liked to see him retire better.
So if you put on your tinfoil hat, just like I said initially, what do you think is the reason why you're retired, Admire?
I think he wants to keep his record and legacy intact because if you told me, if we were doing a show and it was, Tom Aspinall against Jon Jones, I'd pick Tom Aspinall. I think Tom would beat Jon Jones. And then what happens to Jon Jones' legacy at that point? Nothing really. I mean, he's still one of the best fighters ever, but what can he do after that? He's, then what if he goes on to start losing? A lot of those champions, as they get older, once they get that first loss, then the losses sometimes start snowballing. You don't want to become that, so you can either retire and stay on top or risk that first loss that becomes a second loss, that becomes a third loss. So I don't know, man. That's just kind of the way I see it. I don't think he wants to take that first loss to Tom, so just get out while you're on top.
Yeah, but even if he lost, I don't think he's the type of dude that is gonna keep chasing the dragon, so to speak. It definitely set up a rematch where they would make probably even more money. And I think if he lost twice to Tom, I think he just probably hang it up. But I don't know. I mean,
But
what do you go ahead?
But we've seen what kind of trouble he's been in before, legally, substances, all that. Maybe he knows himself well enough that he would spiral if he did take a loss. Maybe that's possible. Maybe he's thinking, hey, there's a chance that this guy might beat me and it might send me down a really dark path. So I can't risk losing. I better get out now, because that's possible. Like me, I've been in trouble before with drinking. Right now, I'm not supervised or anything. I could drink, but I don't, because I'll probably get in trouble. So he could be thinking along the lines of me. Hey, I better not risk it, man.
I don't know. It's definitely a possibility. What were your whole thoughts on this retirement, Steve?
It could be multiple reasons. Me, Jon Jones, I've always been a Jon Jones fan. And yeah, I think he has a complex. He used to do things. He used to say himself to, like, he would party very hard the weeks before and the days coming up, just so he can have an excuse if, he lost. Saying that complex just going in, I mean, he can find different ways to trick his mind. I don't think it's avoiding. I think Jones is just too crazy, meeting somebody else's style in the octagon just to prove a point. I think it's possibly relationship with Dana and UFC in the past, and just to knowing, like, hey, they're always going to say somebody out there, is going to take you. And when you go out on top, I mean, especially lately, anybody that's been undefeated, which is very few, Mayweather, they're going to say, what if? And they say he avoided a lot of fights, Mayweather. So saying Jon Jones, this is the only thing, if this was a narrative, if he was avoiding, I mean, he done way more than the regular combat fighter, because he went through death row, his early age, mid career, and we can also say some of latter. I think maybe he's just seeing, like, hey, it's my last fight. Is it worth it? And if it doesn't meet his standards, he's okay with it, because he knows he's going out on top anyway. But as far as, like, we've seen people have a ceremony after their retirement, is what I can say the fans are cheated. Maybe could be cheating itself, but maybe that's up to him. But definitely could have went out with a different a way, so we can commend his career.
And you both make good points. And like you were saying earlier, Admire, of course, there's probably something in the back of his mind where he's like, he may not want to mess up his legacy if he loses. But I think his ego's so big that at the end of the day, he would love to beat Tom Aspinall just to prove a lot of the trolls in the comment section wrong. So I think at the end of the day, it comes down to money. I think UFC didn't want to pay him. And so, he's they're both putting their dicks on the table, so to speak. Jon Jones said, all right, if y'all want to pay me, then I'm leaving. I'm retiring. And we'll see how fast y'all come back running, because I'm asking a little bit to see if this actually sticks. But just looking at it on surface level, I don't think they paid him what he wanted. So he's like, fuck it.
Yeah, and that could be his part of his plan too. Like, he could say he's retired. He could wait and see if Tom fights somebody else, see how the heavyweight division shakes out. How many fighters have we seen retire and come back? He could come back, and they could offer him a lot of money to come back. How many rappers have we seen say, this is my last album, to come back and drop a big one? And it sells more. So Jon Jones could be doing the same thing. I'm retired. And then his first fight back sells 10 times the pay-per-views that it would have now. So, I mean, this could just be a big, a big hustle by the company and Jon Jones to sell a big fight. So you never know. Could this be strategic?
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, we've seen rappers do it. Like Jay-Z, he had a retirement album, came back.
Jay-Z, Too Short. Like they've all had, this is my last album. And then they come out with 10 albums after that.
Yeah. But going back to both of y'all's points, him not having like a retirement announcement and all the pomp and circumstance behind the last fight, is that necessary though? Because you seen they did it for like Anthony Smith for some reason, but like going to a basketball reference, you know, Kobe had his retirement tour, but just as accomplished player on the other side of things, Tim Duncan, he just quietly retired. So is a retirement match even necessary for like Jon Jones? Admire?
No, I mean, as great of a fighter as he is, I mean, his fighting spoke for him. He doesn't have to. I mean, his legacy speaks for himself. Like Steve said, like he ran through the best of the best at the time in his prime, when he was young, when people were in their primes. I mean, he beat everybody, you know, from, you know, Machida, Vitor Belfort, when he was just roided out of his mind. Like Jon Jones walked through everybody. So his record speaks for itself. He doesn't need the retirement party, but you know, it would be cool because he was the face of the UFC forever. I mean, if you think about it, he had probably the biggest sponsorships out of anybody in the UFC's ever seen. You know, he had Reebok before he got into trouble. You know, that was one of the biggest ones that anybody's seen. He's had, you know, just multiple brands on him. Like he was just huge, and he could have been even bigger without the legal trouble. So, I mean, he could have had a packaged retirement, but it's not necessary.
Yeah, I agree with that. So on first thought, and because if we let it, you know, kind of simmer and we can start to see how it unfolds, we probably have better predictions. But just on like first thought, do you think this retirement will stick? And I'll start over you, Steve.
Bringing to the point you guys kind of brought up earlier, you know, with Dana and as far as contract, you know, contract goes outside of the, you know, table in the room, you know, bargaining. And I can see based off of Dana's behavior, they say he's getting because of his older age, but, you know, I don't think so. Usually we would be saying, Dana saying, oh, he's scared. He called me last night. He said he doesn't want it. He's shaking. You know, he would be making up things for these fighters to be coercing them to even sign the contract. But you can see that Dana is giving Jones respect, and I wouldn't say sort of protecting him, but kind of not crushing his eggs before he gives them away, you know, or so to speak. You know, he's keeping that back pocket of respect, so maybe there will be a fight. Or Jon Jones, I think previously in his career, I think there was comparison of who he might be avoiding. And then I think Jon Jones came online and said, well, here's your boy who just lost. And y'all saying he was the one to defeat. Oh, that was Johnny Walker, wasn't it? The next best thing to beat Jon Jones, and then he lost to Corey Anderson. And I think even Jon Jones gave his opinion on that too, as far as the comparison to beat him. So maybe this is just a strategy for Jon Jones, just to see, all right, let's see Aspinall do his first defense. And if he loses, this is the guy that you were saying is going to beat me. How disrespectful of the fans. And, you know, so he can reverse it. I think it's very strategic.
Am I?
I mean, I don't think it'll stick. I think it's just a way for him to, you know, get the bag, as we like to say. But I had another point I wanted to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to ask you guys a question. Now, the fight we wanted was Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. And there's a lot of people saying that Jon Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. And the fight Jon Jones was talking about was against Alex Pereira. Mm-hmm. Now, if Alex Pereira would have beat Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight belt in their fight, do you think Jon Jones would have fought Alex Pereira at heavyweight? Would Jon Jones have taken a fight then if it was Alex?
Yeah, definitely. But it's a less of a risk. He probably think that's easy money, and he would get paid more because it's a bigger fight. Because Aspinall doesn't have as big a name, so yeah, I think he would have definitely fought Pereira because he saw Pereira get sent to the shadow realms by Izzy at 185. So he's like, Pereira comes up that heavyweight, that's easy work because I'll just take him down and just submit him. So yeah, and I mean, I guess it's kind of hypocrisy on my end because, like I said, I don't think he'd be afraid to face Aspinall, but asking that question and me answering it, I guess it does kind of look like a duck, but it's like I said, it's lower risk if he would have fought Pierre and a bigger name. So I think he would have taken that fight and then possibly have retired, but who knows? What do you think, Steve?
I think definitely he would take that fight with Pierre. Like you said, 2 stars, especially Alex Pierre. Definitely would have took it. We would have saw the numbers, probably bigger numbers than what he was given with Aspinall. And I am hearing those were pretty big numbers they were offering, if I'm not mistaken. So just imagine with a Pierre and Jon Jones, 2 added stars. I think that would be a definite. And like you said, based off of, I would think Aspinall would be the tougher fight, but I don't think a lot of people would turn down money either.
What do you think, Admire?
I mean, that thought just kind of came in my head. I was like, that kind of shows that it kind of is ducking, but it's kind of a business move, but it's kind of a legacy move because it is the harder fight. But why would you take the harder fight for less money? So it kind of makes sense, but I don't know, man. It's less risk. It's less risk going against Pereira, more reward. Aspinall, high risk, less reward. So I mean, it makes sense, but I don't know. I think that Tom Aspinall, though, is getting a lot of credit and fame off of just the talk of fighting Jon Jones without even fighting him. And I think that is the point that Jon Jones was trying to prove. Look, you're getting a name off of me and we ain't even fought. So why do I even need to fight you? So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I guess there's no point in even worrying about it now because Jon Jones is retired as of now.
Yeah. So, I don't think the retirement will stick. But if they don't fork up enough money, it may stick. Because if they only try at TKO, we know how they are with the new TKO Holdings group. If they still are trying to not give him over 8 figures, he's like, I'm only coming back for 8 figures, then it just might be stuck at a standstill, and it might not happen. But I don't know, man. I think they would give it, if Conor had his head on straight, they would give him what he asked for.
Yeah, I mean, I think the UFC kind of is at a point right now where who's their longest reigning champion as of right now? Like Valentina? Is she the longest reigning champion?
She just won it back. It'd probably be Wei Lee. I'm thinking down the list. Yeah, heavyweight. Aspinall has been the interim champion for a while. Heavyweight champion.
Volk just got it back a little bit ago, but I mean,
it would have been Islam if he didn't vacate it.
I was gonna say, but they're gonna have to do something. They need a new poster boy. I mean, we always talk about that. We talked about O'Malley was, where they were putting all the money because O'Malley had a big social media following, and then O'Malley lost. Then they lost Conor. Now they lost Jon Jones. They need to find somebody to pump all this money into that holds a belt. But now they got to find somewhere to go. They got to find somebody to pump money into. And if they can't find that person, I could see them saying, okay, Jon Jones, we'll give you 8 figures. We'll give you $10 million. Come back and do this.
I agree with you in a sense, but looking back, I keep on bringing up TKO because they also own the WWE. If they are making all of this money off of the TV deal, and as we see on TV, that everywhere they're going to, they're basically selling it out, and people are paying astronomical numbers, even with these shitty ass cards. But if they just keep, painting by the numbers, like, we don't need any stars since we're still selling out all these places and, people are still coming.
Yeah, true. I mean, but I don't know, man. Like, as us being like big just fight fans in general, I never thought I'd say this, but like, I kind of want a star, a star to be in there. It's fun to have, a guy to, be the big, it guy just to kind of follow along with, because right now it kind of feels stagnant. A lot of these times we get on here and it's like we don't have, a big star of, hey, what's this person doing? Like, when Connor was not being the bad guy, but when Connor was actually, just kind of loud and, before the, I would say before the Mayweather fight, he was fun to follow on, social media and to see what Conor McGregor was up to. Hey, did you see him? He was over here doing this. He was over here hanging out with this person. Some of that stuff was fun to keep up with, but it seems like we don't have a champion to keep up with now.
And I agree with you. And I think the pandemic was a blessing and a curse. Of course, it sucked at the time and because we didn't have events. But now that we're fully out of the pandemic, people were starved on going to live events. And I think they're still seeing the trickle of that. People are paying to go to these shitty ass events. So I think we're going to have to see just the prices keep rising and we got to get these casuals out of here and they got to see their attendance dip so we can start seeing stars. Like you said, it's fun seeing stars and the hype that are behind those pay-per-views. And I mean, what was it? 8 years or so ago, we saw the highest pay-per-view sold with Conor and Habib. And it's just fun just having that big fight field. And right now, you're not really giving that. Of course, us three are going to always watch because we've been watching for over 10, 15 years now. So, of course, they're going to always get us. But, it's fun talking with friends who like kind of dip their toes in and be like, hey, y'all watching this big-ass so-and-so fight that's happening this weekend? And right now, we're not getting that.
Yeah, you're not getting them stacked cards like we used to where it's like just banger after banger. Like a lot of times lately, it's been like some of the fight night cards are better than the numbered cards.
Yeah, it's like no rhyme or reason how they are putting these cards together. Who's ever available, I feel like just throw them on there and like and have it spread out. What do you think, Steve? Before we get off this talk,
yeah. As far as like what was the question?
just like we're seeing Jon Jones retire and UFC's kind of in the mud a little bit as far as
Stardom, right?
yes.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like that era where you had storylines in multiple divisions. Man, I can just name a few of them, even the small ones, the Tyron Woodleys and Stephen Thompson, they had their little back and forth. Just those back to back, and even then you had your stars, you had your definite athletic stars that were known for their champion and their athleticism. Like example, of Tyron Woodley when he was a champion. If they can't necessarily grab that superstardom like Connor, and like you said, over the years, our stars just haven't accomplished their own goals they set. I can say Izzy, he took his first loss, right? So he just took his prestigious away when he fought Jan Blachowicz, if I'm not mistaken, in light heavyweight, and he could have stayed focused in middleweight, and that, and then you just started seeing the deterioration of his, career. He got that one with Piera back, but we lost to Izzy. Then you have ones on the rise, but not necessarily have stars, or just they might have to go fight longer to stamp a true stardom in the UFC. But like I said, Connor's not fighting. Jon Jones retired. The people that we grew up loving for the past 10 years, Yoel Romero, the past 3-5 years, these fighters are retiring. And there needs to be a new stock I feel like needs to be built up, or find a talent pool where somebody's just tearing through divisions.
Even with that, you have fighters that are talented, like a Islam or Pantoja we've seen this weekend, but and we've seen it with you don't. And it is a little bit easier if you're, UFC is based out of US, so if you got somebody from the US, they can kind of connect with fans. But you gotta have a counter, but it's also an English speaking country. But we've seen it happen with star making that people from different countries, and I don't know why UFC can't do it now. Maybe it's not UFC, it's just lightning in the bottle, and these kind of fighters are speaking for themselves because GSP, English isn't his first language, and he was a huge star. Anderson Silva was a huge star. English was first language. So it seems like it's a UFC thing at this point, right, Admire?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what they'll do to fix it. But before we do move on, I do have a few other questions as far as the Jon Jones thing goes. So not taking into factor the out of case stuff, because, say what you want about his legal troubles, just keeping it strictly in cage, because nothing's going to change my mind about what I think about him. I think he's the greatest of all time, but he does have haters. So what do you think the haters will bring up more as far as his legacy goes? His drug test pops or him not facing Aspinall? And I'll let you kick it off, Admire.
I think the recency bias will be the more talked about thing. I think it'll be the ducking Aspinall thing. I think that is what the majority of people will use, but I think the more hardcore people, like the more serious people about MMA, will use the PED stuff. Like Errol Fawani, he already said something about Jon Jones' legacy and PEDs. Like he already brought that up and posted something about it. I think it was today or something. So I mean, you'll have people use them both, but I think the recency stuff with Tom Aspinall will be the default go-to for most people.
Steve?
Well, you refresh the question again?
I was saying, as far as detractors on people bring up Jon Jones' legacy, would drug tests be brought up more, or him not facing Aspinall?
Well, we're kind of, I guess, in a new territory of a undefeated MMA fighter. I guess Jon Jones was the first to, I believe, make that. So, man, we're gonna have to see years after his retirement to see if people remember, because they say that you remembered, sort of your last fight, and then, so to speak, people are gonna look at the record. And I guess we can look at a more recent Mayweather and see what sticks today. He's undefeated, and what do people say about him? And I believe there are three things that will stick to Jon Jones, but I think a lot of things, and quite honestly, depending on how good Aspinall does in his career, might not even be remembered as the person that so-called retired him.
Yeah, I think it could go either way. Like, if you don't like the guy, you don't like the guy, so you could bring up both. But like Amai said, it's probably gonna be more so recency bias, and people talk about him not fighting Aspinall. But it is what it is. But one last question, actually, before we move on. With Aspinall now being promoted the undisputed heavyweight champion, do you think, not directly but indirectly, Jon Jones is playing a little mind games? Do you think Aspinall will have that in his head? Like he kind of has some type of imposter syndrome where he didn't get to face Jon Jones, and that might mess with him a little bit? I'll let you kick it off, Steve.
It can possibly, because everybody would want that big fight with the undefeated fighter, and when you're on the top of your career, it's just like a opportunity missed on your list. Somebody that slayed the undefeated fighter in MMA. Yeah, I would be a little bit upset, and maybe, but And also just looking at anybody in heavyweight that can equivalate his money fight. I'm trying to think of the heavyweight division that could generate just as much money. And the closest thing is if somehow, Pierre comes up from heavyweight, I think he could maybe get some type of, money fight. But other than that, I can't see as any other people that would generate money for him. That's probably why he's upset.
But yeah, I might think Aspinall might come into some imposter syndrome.
Nah, I mean, I think Tom is going to take this as I scared Jon Jones out of the UFC. Tom said last year that, I'm going to retire you. And I think he even said, I'm going to retire you without even having to fight you. So I think Tom kind of predicted this, that Jon was going to retire before they even got to fight. So I think he'll just take this as, I didn't even have to fight the guy and move on with it and continue fighting these guys at the top of the food chain. I mean, I don't know who's next. I mean, I think Surreal's Gone's up there, but I mean,
what, like I'm about to say, like, what fight do you even care about at heavyweight for champion?
I don't. I mean, Johnson Almeida, maybe.
I mean, he lost. I think he got one back since then. Cyril Gane, we just saw what happened with him between Francis and Jon Jones. So he's kind of damaged goods at this point. I mean,
almost everybody up at the top's damaged goods, pretty much.
Now let's see what you could do without being the B side of a Jon Jones fight. Aspinall, he needs to go on like a tear. He needs to win the next 3 by devastating fashion to, people not to, be like, see, told you so, that, he was just huffing and puffing for no reason. So it's going to be interesting to see. But sticking to kind of the same topic, still your lineal heavyweight champion, who's now in the PFL, Francis Ngannou. They asked Dana White about Francis Ngannou coming back, and he kind of gave like a snarky answer. He said, one thing I learned over the years about Francis doesn't always mean what he says publicly. What he says behind the scenes are differently than what he says publicly. And he said he's not a big fan. He said he'd be shocked if Francis ever came back on a lot of levels. So you think this is just Dana just being Dana? You think that he's kind of bluffing a little bit, and you think we actually do see Francis possibly coming back to the UFC?
I think Dana's bitter that Francis left, so he's going to talk shit. I mean, it's kind of like how Dana used to talk shit on like Fedor when, he was over, fighting overseas and stuff like that. Like Dana White will talk shit on anybody who's not in the promotion, and usually talk shit on people that leave the promotion. But if Francis was a free agent right now, Dana White would be taking him out to dinner, trying to get him back, because that's a moneymaker for him. But he knows that Francis is under contract right now, so there's nothing he can do about it. So it's salty. He's just salty right now. I wouldn't take it as anything.
Do you think he's just salty?
Yeah.
Steve, you think he's just salty?
I would have to agree, because I think even Ngannou even doubled down and said he doesn't want to have no desire to come back to the UFC. And I think if we remember his last, when he came out of the UFC, I don't think it was a good breakup as far as the narrative, and I think there was a whole argument behind the company behind that. So I think he's more salty, and see, that's his only thing that can save the heavyweight division.
Yeah.
Jon Jones fight.
If you don't have Jon Jones, then Aspinall and Ngannou would be a huge fight. So, so you don't think we ever see Francis in the octagon again?
If we do, I mean, it's probably a couple of years off.
Man, he'll be like 40 or 41 or something. A couple of years. I don't know if he has the time for that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it'll be a time that it's, past his prime. So it's going to be one of them things, too little, too late. So it's not even something that I'm worried about.
Steve, you think we see him ever back in the octagon?
I don't think so. I think he's good. I think that was his last deal to probably make it into retirement, and especially how much money they're throwing at him, and then letting him do a boxing match also. So we forgot about that. Two of them actually. I think he's very good, and rather be on the side he's on.
Yeah, I mean, on first thought, yeah, but who is there even for him to face a PFL admirer at this point?
I don't think there's anybody. I mean, nobody that's gonna garner any attention. I don't think. Let me pull up the PFL rankings and just see if we even know any of these names. Let's see.
They still have Darth Vader.
No, didn't Bader end up leaving there or something?
I think he still might be with them. I know he's with Bellator, and then they, absorbed them and whatnot.
Let's see. Athletes. See, I can't even, they don't even have, they have all kinds of stuff. World Tournament, Championship Series.
I can't even think of any events they have coming. I think they might be approaching their playoffs soon.
They don't even have anything on their heavyweight page.
That's crazy. And
yeah, I don't know what they got going on over here on their website.
And is Francis still talking about boxing at this point?
I haven't heard anything.
So, yeah, I don't even know who.
Let me see if there's any news on him. I know there's just no anything.
So, I don't even know how they could really afford him if he's getting paid as much as. Well, I guess he's getting paid on the boxing side of things. I'm not sure how much PFL is even paying him at this point. So it'll be interesting, but on first thought, I go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, anything can happen. We didn't think we see a lot of people go back to UFC, but I don't know. It just seems at this point it may be that ship has sailed and they're just too far apart. So I don't think we see him in there within the next 2 years. Like you said, if he does, it'd be like a washed up version of himself. Maybe there's a fun fight later down the line, but guess time will tell. But before we get in this card, it's happening this weekend. UFC BJJ is starting this Wednesday, and they actually revealed the new championship belts. And I'll let y'all take a look and get y'all thoughts on how do you think these belts look. Can y'all see? Oh,
let's see. That looks pretty wild, man. That looks like a freaking Power Rangers belt.
Yeah. For those listening, we have it up on the screen. They're like red and black, and they have is that like a taekwondo belt on there almost, or a BJJ belt, taekwondo belt?
Yeah, it's just like whatever kind of belt they use on their gis.
So yeah, it's a pretty wild looking belt. So they dabbled in BJJ in the past few years with the UFC Invitationals, but now they're officially launching UFC BJJ, and it's starting this Wednesday. I think they have 3 different divisions. Yeah, they have bantamweight, lightweight, and welterweight divisions. And the thing I like about One Championship, they'll do fights basically every Friday, but One Championship used to be a strictly MMA promotion. I think 2 or 3 years ago, they just martial arts in general now. If you watch a One Championship card, they'll have 8, 10 fights, and some fights will be MMA fights, some fights will be kickboxing, some fights will be jiu-jitsu, and they have Muay Thai. So they have like 4 different, and they got like champions for all. So I think UFC is trying to like kind of play off of that and do this UFC BJJ. Y'all actually think it'll be successful? I'll let you kick it off, man.
Yeah, I think it will be because it gives a bigger stage. I mean, there are a lot of, BJJ like tournaments and different clubs and different things out there, but it gives it a bigger stage. But also, you got to think about bare knuckle. Bare knuckle gave a home to the guys that don't want to do the ground fighting. They just want to stand up and fight. Well, this gives a home to the guys that want to do the ground fighting that don't necessarily always want to do the stand-up game. A lot of those guys, it kind of makes me think of some of the old WEC guys that, weren't the best at stand-up, but they like to do a lot of the ground fighting. Or even somebody like, I hate saying his name, Dylan Dennis. He didn't want to do any stand-up. He's just strictly a ground fighter. But this will give an opportunity for fighters like that don't want to take any kind of head damage, a place to go at a professional level. So I think it's a smart business move.
For sure. Steve, you think this BJJ UFC will be successful?
I think so. But especially it's getting more popular. I mean, even in America, I think I can't remember previously we talked about it, or maybe just one of my random conversations with people. You're starting to see dojos all over in these outlets, right next to a Subway somewhere, or it's way more popular than me being first introduced to any type of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is through the UFC, and so you got people that are wanting everyday aspect of watching a professional taken seriously promotion Jiu-Jitsu. Me necessarily, I'm not too much of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu watcher, but I will watch somebody that's on top of the game. What's his name? Gordon. Big jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah. I even know of him.
Gordon Ryan.
Yeah. Gordon Ryan. Yeah.
So there's always a good aspect because a lot of people like to watch from the top guy from that discipline. And just like MMA, it's like they would like to do it, but if there's an outlet to where you don't have to kickbox, I'm a kickboxer, but I don't want to deal with wrestler. What's that guy? Jordan Burroughs. He said he didn't want to deal with the kicking. Terrence Crawford didn't want to deal with kicking, but he's an awesome wrestler and a boxer. It's I'm glad there's always a discipline or in combat sports where you can watch the peer discipline, and now there's a serious promotion that does that for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think UFC is given the platform to do that.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan on launching this full-on BJJ league. I think, matter of fact, I think it'll surpass slap fighting really quickly, and they're putting it on YouTube. This first event is happening tomorrow. It's going to be on YouTube, so it's going to be free, so they can ease people into it without having to commit to paying. So I think within a year we might see it have like a nice little TV deal and get on one of those networks. And like I said, I think it'll probably surpass slap fighting because it's actually a sport. And you've seen BJJ, like you said, Steve, you've seen BJJ gyms kind of take off all over the country. So definitely piques my interest. So I'll be tuning in. Even if I don't get to tune in live, it's going to be on YouTube, so you can watch it back whenever you can. So that'll be fun for them to launch. But we've been speaking of the news stories a lot today. Let's get into this fight that's happening this weekend. Going down in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was just there this past weekend. International Fight Week. I feel like this doesn't really feel like an International Fight Week. I don't know, but it may be a me thing because over the past basically year, I'm usually really tapped into like the UFC and is going into it, but I've been busy lately. But I don't know. But overall, I really don't feel like a whole lot of hype. How you feel, Admire, as far as the hype, International Fight Week?
I didn't even think about it being fight week until you said that. So that's how much it's really just kind of gone under the radar. They haven't really been pushing it like that. But the other thing that went on this weekend, this past weekend, was Fan Fest, Fanatic Fest up in New York. So maybe that kind of overshadowed it a little bit too. So maybe some more stuff will come out this week about fight week.
Yeah, it's a little bit early. They usually do it on the 4th of July weekend. Maybe that's taken away from it a little bit, but I guess they had to move it up based on how it rotates. But does it feel like an International Fight Week to you, Steve?
Not at all. And maybe that's because the stardom list, or maybe, I don't know. From what I past remember, International Fight Week used to be jam-packed with the card, and I don't know. Maybe it's for the production of stars and transition of stars getting older. Because actually think about it, most of the stars, if they are on their way out for their career, if they are starting the UFC, so maybe that hindered it. I just know when you heard International Fight Week, and I don't see too much of a promotion of that.
I almost wonder if it has something to do with like the ESPN and UFC deal, still coming to an end in negotiations and stuff. I wonder if it's like not being pushed, because I seen something the other day. I mean, about 3 weeks ago, something about like the whole UFC library was kind of wiped from the ESPN. One of the, I don't know if it was ESPN Plus or something. A lot of the UFC content was missing.
It might be like they're not leaving it up there as long as they used to, but they've always taken it down after like a month, because after that they'll put it on Fight Pass.
Let me see.
Maybe they're taking it down quicker. Maybe they're only leaving it up for like a week now. But it always usually eventually goes to UFC Fight Pass. I don't even know how much people still have Fight. I have Fight Pass because I bought a subscription back in like 2021 from someone, and that shit still hasn't expired. So I'm gonna keep on riding that train. But I was actually watching UFC 3 the other day. That shit is so much different. Like I was watching Shamrock versus I can't remember the guy's name, but then you had the big dude, Emmanuel, the big black guy. He just recently passed, but it was wild. But yeah, I don't know why. Have you seen that they may be taking it down more quickly? Am I?
Well, I just Googled it to see Sports Illustrated posted it on May 31st. ESPN Plus unexpectedly axes UFC fight library as new TV rights deal looms, is the name of the article. So it looks like some of the stuff was missing. And then the AI overview says UFC is currently in negotiations for a new media rights deal as their current contract with ESPN expires at the end of 2025. So that could be why that, Fight Week isn't being pushed and a lot of the stuff isn't being as big. Maybe ESPN isn't pushing UFC as hard since, they, potentially could be losing them.
Yeah, you might be right. I just hope anywhere but Netflix. I don't know. I don't really like Netflix for live event stuff, but it's all gonna come down to who throws the most cash at them. So we'll see how that plays out. But it is International Fight Week, and let's get to the early prelims. They're gonna be on this. It's gonna be on ESPN Plus. Welterweight division, we got Nico Price versus Jacoby Smith. Heavyweight division, we have Jonta Denise versus Alvin Hines, and the top early prelims off in the middleweight division, we have Cedric Dumas versus Jackson McAvey. I guess the Nico Price I might try to catch. It depends if I'm home. I mean, I don't know if any of these fights piques your interest.
Yeah, that's the one that stuck out to me is Nico Price. I mean, he's always a good fight. He's alternated wins and losses like forever, going back like 5-6 years. But he's always good to watch fight. I think the other one that stuck out to me was the Dumas fight. That
Yeah,
should be an all right one.
Yeah, Sajikis Dumas. I don't want to not give him credit. He's pretty interesting to watch. How about you, Steve? You care about any?
If I do, the only one, noticeable, Nico Price. It's the only one that looks interesting to me.
Yeah. So moving on to the prelims, what happened on Big ESPN lightweight division. We got Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borchev. Women's flyweight, we have Vivian Araujo versus Tracy Cortez. Featherweight division, we have Hyder Emil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. And to top this one off, we got in the middleweight division, Jack Hermanson versus Gregory Rodriguez. So this it's pretty interesting prelims. Any of these fights interest you, Amar?
I mean, Jack Hermanson, he's fun to watch, and the only ranked fighters on here are the women. Pretty light load. Usually, the prelims lately we've been saying, hey, that's pretty stacked, but pretty light prelims on this one. But you never know. Usually, prelims can be bangers. They're trying to make a name.
What about like a Terrence McKinney? He's been kid from Washington. He's been on the rise, and then I feel like he always hits that snag where like he had a little 2-fight losing streak, then he won 2, and then he lost 1, then he won 1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he'll probably come out, swinging, trying to prove a point. Just he wants to stay in the UFC's good graces instead of completely alternating wins and losses. Just string something together.
Interested in any of these prelim fights, Steve?
Yeah, he had ups and downs. Terrence McKinney, interesting fighter to watch. Every time I see this Russian cat, Borchev, he just reminds me of his. Every time I recognize him, it reminds me of his victory dance when he does the Russian kick dance. So just know of his name. If I recognize a name, I'd probably be more inclined to watch it, which is those Vivian, Tracy Cortez, of course. Those are known in UFC. Tracy and Vivian puts up a tough fight with the women's division. And Jack Hermanson and Gregory Rodriguez, of course. Rodriguez hits like a truck, and Jack Hermanson has probably been one of those grinders as far as the type of fighter he is to bring a good fight. So I think that's going to be a good one also.
Yeah, so I'm definitely hoping to catch these live, and if not, I'll definitely go back and watch it. But let's move on to the main card, fellas. Kicking this one off, we have very hyped bantamweight fight. Well, very hyped fighter in the bantamweight division. Payne Talbot versus Felipe Lima to kick this one off. And who you have in this one, Admire?
On this one, I'm going to go with Payne Talbot. I was real high on Payne Talbot, ever since he came on the scene. I thought he was the next big deal. He kind of, had a hiccup his last fight. He took his first loss, so kind of going to see how he recovers, how he kind of deals with that. He lost by decision beginning of the year. Before that, he was on 9-fight winning streak. He had a couple of knockouts, TKOs, submissions. So hopefully he bounces back, kind of learns from that first loss. So definitely going Payne Talbot on this one.
And Payne Talbot is actually the underdog on this one, but it's close. It's basically pick him. It's plus 165 to Lima's minus 195. Who you got, Steve?
I think I'll go with Payne Talbot just because he's had fights. I would say more than Lima, more experience. And like Admire said, I think he had his hiccup. And with Barca, forgot his name.
Was it Barcelos?
Yeah, Barcelos. But I think he can overcome that just from even surviving that fight, because his first hiccup wasn't just a total landslide white. You can tell he was trying to adjust, but just couldn't make the adjustments. I think that was an experience bump to even make him win this fight coming up.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Talbot as well. I mean, he's only lost one fight, so this isn't like do or die for him. But those pay-per-view spots aren't hard to. I mean, those main card spots aren't easy to get. So this is like you better show and prove, or you might be regulated to a fight night card. So I'm gonna pick Talbot to bounce back on this one. Like y'all said, he came off that first loss against Barcelos, and it's pretty much a pick'em fight. So this fight probably could still go either way, but I think Talbot will get the W on this one. Moving on to the lightweight division. This should be an actually good one. This is quick turnaround for Moicano, isn't it? Or was that last year he fought? But it's Beneil Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Who you got in this one, Admire?
This should be a real good fight here, man. I've always been real high on Beneil Dariush. I actually picked him to beat Oliveira when they fought like 2 fights ago for him, when Oliveira took him out. Moicano's a tough customer too. His last fight was against Makhachev. Makhachev choked him out like 1 minute or some shit like that. But before that, I mean, he beat, Benoit St. Denis, Jalen Turner, Drew Dober, Brad Riddle. Like, just he's had a good lineup of wins too, man. This was a tough one to pick. Let me see. What are the odds on this one?
So you got it's even for Dariush, but Moicano's a minus 120.
God, this is such a tough fight. I think if it stays standing up, Moicano's got it, but Dariush gets it on the ground, it's game over, and they're ranked so close together. I got to go with my guy, Dariush, man. I always roll with him. I got to go Dariush.
Man, time flies. I was thinking Moicano just faced Islam like in March or April. That was all the way back in January. So, jeez. But who you got in this one, Steve?
Man, I like Renato Moicano, and sometimes I pick off of the person I like, but I leaning more over to the experienced Beneil Dariush. I could say from memory, he's only lost to very complex fighters or top fighters, and Moicano, he's won against good fighters too, but I think Dariush has been fighting a better grade of fighters and some in between winning some, but Dariush has fought the best. Moicano fought the best not too long ago and didn't do too well, but I think out of the experience, Dariush might be able to get this one, although I like Moicano's style, and I think he may be even up to par on the ground game, but I'm leaning towards Dariush more.
Yeah, like you said, it's kind of a tale of 2 different styles between Dariush being so adept on the ground and Moicano. We know he has the punching power, and it's pretty much a pick 'em. So y'all went Dariush. I'm gonna go with Moicano. I think Dariush continues the slide and he's going a 3-fight losing streak. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went either way. But I think Moicano might catch him and finish him maybe in the second round. So I'm gonna go with Moicano on this one. You 2 have Dariush. Moving along in the flyweight division, former title contender Brandon Royval faces Josh Van in a quick turnaround. He just fought this month at the last pay-per-view. Wow, that's ridiculous turnaround. Who you got in this one, Amir?
I believe this one's pretty much a pick 'em as well. I guess the wild thing about this one is the rankings. Royval ranked number 1, Josh Van ranked number 12, but they got him as a pick 'em, and I think the reason is because of that quick turnaround. Van coming off that win recently. coming in as a fill-in. Man, this one's a tough one too. I think, I'm not going to let the rankings sway me. I'm just kind of going over their records real quick. Man, Royval's got probably the better of it, but Van's coming off a recent win. Hey, I got to go with Royval on this one.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards more Royval. And our reasons for that is just me. I like his style. Fought good competition. He's more consistent in his wins. I think when he has lost, it's more to the champions today. Joshua Van, I can see how he can have a chance. You can either make it or break it as far as having a continuous camp. I mean, he's probably in shape out of his life right now, but if he didn't sustain any injuries. And I think that may be a plus for him because Royval seems like he doesn't fight as much, which means, who knows, he might have some ring rust. But I have to give it to Royval. I mean, Joshua Van is getting the chance of his life. He's ranked number 12 against the number 1. I mean, but I'm going more for Royval.
Man, it would. If it wasn't for the length of Josh Van's fight, because like once you got that momentum and you've been active, sometimes that momentum carries over. But he did go basically all 3 rounds. He didn't get that finish until like a minute left. So I do want to go off on a limb and pick Van, but I think I'm gonna stick with experience on this one. And it's a huge jump in competition facing Royval. But you never know. All it takes is one punch. But I'm gonna do the safe pick and go with Royval. But I wouldn't be surprised though if Van caught him. So all 3 of us have Royval on this one. Moving right along to the co-main event, flyweight division. You have your champion Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France for the undisputed flyweight championship. Who you got in this one, Amir?
On this one, they got Pantoja as a pretty heavy favorite at -265. Kai Kara-France plus 215 underdog. I mean, Pantoja's the champion for a reason. He's got the resume to back it up. He's on 7-8 fight winning streak. He's beat the top guys. He beat Royval that we just talked about. He's beat Brandon Moreno, beat Royval twice. Cape Ursig, Kai Kara-France. His last win was against Ursig. Before that, he had 2 losses. So I think it's an easy pick here with Pantoja.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Pantoja. Although Kai Kara-France, he's up and coming. Looks like a skilled fighter. I think he's had humps in his career where he'll get pretty close, and not be able to get over that hump. And I think this is one of those hump. Pantoja is too skillful. Saying that, in the flyweight division, it seems like this may be his opportunity to maybe fight somebody he hasn't, because he's lost against Royval. So it's like you caught in between a place here, but I don't think he can get over Pantoja. He's too skillful, I think. I mean, just analyzing his fights before, Pantoja's taking care of everybody that Kai Kara-France lost to. So I think I'm more leaning to Pantoja.
Yeah, and I think they just run out of guys down there at flyweight to step up and face Pantoja, because Kai Kara-France, he's coming off a Ursig win, but he just lost the 2 before that against Albazi and Moreno. So just off of 1 win, he's getting the title shot. And I'm not picking against Pantoja on this one. ever since he lost 2020, he's been on a hell of a win streak. Whatever holes he did have in his game back then, it seems like he's closed them. Like he's good on the ground, he's good at standing up. So I just can't pick against him right now. And Moreno, how many times has Moreno faced him? I think he faced him in Ultimate Fighter and faced him 2 times in the UFC, maybe even 3, and can't figure out that puzzle. And we know how big of a fan favorite Moreno is, and those fights that he had up at featherweight. So, I mean, not featherweight, flyweight, excuse me. Against Figueiredo, those wars he had, they fought 4 times. And how many times has Pantoja faced Moreno, Admire? I don't know if you have it in front of you, but they face each other a good bit.
Moreno
and Pantoja, they faced each other twice in the UFC.
Oh, twice, yeah. UFC Fight Night in 2018 and UFC 290 in 2023.
And then they fought on the Ultimate Fighter, if I'm not mistaken. So technically 3 times. And like I said, a high-level fighter like Moreno can't figure out the Pantoja puzzle. So I'm going to go with Pantoja as well as a retain. And hopefully it's an exciting fight because those flyweights have been getting a lot of finishes lately. So it seems like the hot division right now. So definitely excited to see how this one unfolds. But let's talk about this main event, fellas. In the lightweight division, your former featherweight champion, Ilia Topuria, facing your former lightweight champion, Charles do Bronx Oliveira. What are your thoughts on this one, Admire?
Man, odds on this one, looks like there's a couple different places, but the one I'm looking at now has Topuria at a minus 450 favorite.
Wow.
And Charles Oliveira at a plus 350 underdog. Why is it that it's such a spread like that? Well, you know, Topuria undefeated. First guy to really just beat the dog shit out of Max Holloway. You know, and Topuria has just like a crazy resume. Yeah, I mean, we really haven't seen him in that much trouble. You know, he's knocked out Max, he knocked out Volk, submitted Bryce Mitchell, knocked out Ryan Hall, Herbert, Damon Jackson. I mean, just a whole list of just people. But I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Charles Oliveira, man. He's awesome. You know, he could throw hands. He's a badass on the ground. You know, Charles Oliveira's beaten, you know, Chandler. We just talked about Dariush. He's beat Gaethje, Poirier, Ferguson, Kevin Lee. I mean, just he's got a whole lineup of people he's beat as well. But I think the biggest difference here is Topuria is 27 years old. Mm-hmm. Charles Oliveira is 35, coming up on 36. So I think there is a big age difference, and Topuria is right on that sweet spot. If it just like hitting his prime, he has, you know, the gas tank. He has just everything. And I think this is a case where usually you don't want to be the real smaller fighter, but him being 5'7", Oliveira being 5'10", I think Topuria's boxing and movement's going to really come into play here. So I got to go with the odds makers on this one, man. I got to go with Topuria. I think his speed and, you know, his gas tank's going to make the difference. I think he's going to get another, you know, early finish.
Steve?
Yeah, not only the odds maker, but I think Ilia Topuria, he believes in himself. I like his demeanor when he talks. His training is especially when he fights in the ring, his confidence, and I'm pretty sure if he didn't think he would be up to par in lightweight, he wouldn't do it. And I don't know if y'all heard it. I think me and EJ talked about it, that he goes all the way up in walking around weight, like 185. That's his walk around weight. So, I mean, I think he can carry some power over from that featherweight into lightweight to still do some damage. And I think even, which we haven't seen on display too much, wrestling defense. I don't think Oliveira was a strong person taking people down, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that might work out for Ilie. Most definitely to keep it standing and get the knockout. I'm going for Ilie. Definitely, I think he has a better chance of winning this against Charles Oliveira. Plus, hearing that about Ilie is a walk around weight gives me confidence of having a good weight cut or a weight gain after weight cut.
Yeah, I can't go against those odds either, but not just because of that, but it's because what I've seen from Ilya, the past 3-4 fights, and like he kind of, he's been on my radar somewhat, but before he got that title shot against Volkanovski, like he had just beat Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's no slouch, but you don't think of him as like a world beater. So when he beat Volkanovski like that like really opened my eyes. Like, okay, this guy's the real deal. And like you said, Amir, he beat the shit out of Holloway. Just sometimes some guys just catch fire and there's no stopping it. And like you said, Amir, not to take anything from Oliveira because we've seen what he's done, but it's not like Oliveira is like a huge lightweight either. Tapir's coming up from featherweight. Oliveira was in the featherweight division for a while before he came up and started wreaking havoc on the lightweight division. But like you said, Father Time's undefeated, so Oliveira's getting up there in age, and I just think it's Tapir's time right now. And I can see him getting a finish as well, but I can see it going the distance either or. But either way, going into Tapir's way, and I think we see your new lightweight champion, Ilia Topuria. And it's going to be interesting. Like, even though not a lot of hype behind this card, all of the fights on the main card are going to be interesting, and we'll definitely be tuned in. But as far as our records go, Amir after this weekend's card is still going to be in the lead because you and Steve pick all the same fights, and right now you're leading 18-12. Me and Steve are both 16-14, so I have a chance to inch a little bit closer, but you're guaranteed to be in the lead after this weekend's card. So it's been close all year.
Yeah. And one thing I was going to bring up kind of when we were talking about the news, I've been watching some of the last couple fights, like the Hill Roundtree and then the one that was before that, Usman Buckley. Yeah. Have you noticed that there's been a lot of decisions lately? Like on the Hill and Roundtree, I think there was 10 decisions and 2 finishes, or maybe 3 finishes. And then the Usman Buckley was the same. It was like 10 decisions and like 2 finishes. Like we're getting to be, I think it's the sport's developing, and a lot of the matchups have been so even lately. So, I mean, I know it's, a lot of people want to see the finishes, but it's just something I picked up and noticed that we're seeing a lot of decisions lately.
Maybe it's the level of competition. Like you said, maybe people are more evenly matched, but is that could be a bad thing though?
Yeah, it's probably a bad thing for business, but for the MMA purists, I think it's a good thing, seeing things more evenly matched.
Before we get on out of there, Steve, you think that's good or bad for business?
It can go both ways. You can get a dog fight, those decisions, but that's few and far between. And we can respect decisions, but also as MMA fans, we want to see practitioners finish their opponent, disable them. And I think that's a big part of the sport too. So I'm pretty sure Dana will do something, maybe a pep talk to maybe get people to get out there and want to get it finished more.
Hike those bonuses up. They've been real stingy with those lately.
Money talks.
I say money talks and bullshit walks, but I'm gonna keep my eye on that. I might not even mention it, but like I said, it's gonna be an action-packed weekend of fights, and we will be back next week to recap everything. So hopefully this weekend's card does not disappoint. And make sure to follow us on all social media platforms: YouTube, subscribe, X, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. But that'll do it for us here at Haymaker Combat Sports. Until next time, be safe out there. Later.
Hit the takedown, ground and pound, that was from the top. Heel hooking, no more plot, leave you in the knot. Pound for pound, been the greatest, sitting on the top. And I'm laughing at the fools who think they coming for the spot. You ain't got a shot, it's already mine.